Hello, how are you doing today? I'm excited to welcome Belinda as our co-host today. Thank you so much, Belinda, for joining us, and thank you, Linda and Trisha, for also joining. We're experimenting with something new since the beginning of the pandemic when I started hosting these sessions on Thursday. It was really about just experimenting with how do we create real-time experiences, even if we can't be in real life together. And so for the last several months, or last, I guess, month or two, we've been doing the Zoomcast with Oakley. She's off writing a book now, and we're going to continue to iterate and create these real-time spaces. And I think one of the things that I've personally been very excited about of late are healing circles, circles of trust, community building circles. There's a lot of these circles that have been around for a very long time. In some ways, since we could all sit behind or around a fire, we've been sitting in circle. And now in the digital world, we're getting a chance to sort of reimagine these circles in a new way. And I had my partner actually shared a story with me about what does it mean to sit in a circle around a fire. And they said the secret in this is that you want to be close enough to the fire that you're warm, but not so close that you burn yourself. And you don't want to be so far that you freeze yourself out. And so there's a magic to a circle in terms of you wanting to be close enough to stay warm, but not too far that you freeze. And a lot of what I've been thinking about lately is about being in right relationship. This term right relationship has been really resonant for me because it's about proximity. And if you think about right relationship like birds in flight, if you've ever seen a flock of birds, it's called a murmuring. And it seems as if they're moving all at once. And they move all at once because they're in right proximity to each other. They're not so close that their wings are getting in each other's way, but they're not so far that they somehow lose connection to the whole. And when we can be in right relationship and we can have that proximity that allows us to be connected but not interfere, we can move like the murmuring of the birds. And it looks like this beautiful pattern of connection. And so to me, healing circles or gratitude circles or circles of trust, however you want to call them, is about us learning how to be in right relationship with each other. And so I'm super excited to do this with Belinda. We were talking on Monday and she was like, I do circles too, Omar. And I was like, well, let's try it together then. And, you know, it's fortuitous that we're able to have this conversation. Belinda, if you've been watching or joining us on these Thankful Thursday series, was with us over the summer. And she's the co-founder of Gratitude Blooming, which has these beautiful physical cards, which she's now experimenting with digital cards, which she did this summer. If you're using our app, earlier in November, we did a collaboration where for 6 days we shared those cards on our app for people to give thanks around hope, presence, joy, healing. It was a beautiful experience. It was great to see so many people just give a little bit of permission to give thanks to people. And now this is our new collaboration. So thank you so much, Belinda, for joining us. She's going to share a little bit about herself, and then we'll do a group check-in.
Oh, thanks, Omar. It's so lovely to see all you beautiful faces and people's names on the screen. I'm calling from Mount Shasta, California, and I literally was making an outdoor fire one night around this full moon time and noticed my feet were getting cold and I was putting my feet into the fire and literally the heel of one of my shoes started to burn a little. So, Omar, your metaphor is very relevant. There is such a thing as being too close to the fire, especially when you have shoes on. Yeah, so I'm just really honored to be holding this space with Omar today and to connect with all of you. For the past decade, I've really been looking at how can we create the tools and experiences and physical spaces that really support meaningful connection. And gratitude has honestly been one of the things that has been such a big easily accessible, very quick tool and strategy to just get out of a mind frame and into another one. And so I'm just really honored to be working with Omar around this shared passion, which is just bringing more awareness around how this can be such a simple way to really support our well-being, especially during this time
Hmm.
where we just feel like so much more stress and so much more uncertainty in the world. So feels like now more than ever we need this as a way to bring us back to our center.
And I think that sense of being centered and connected is really about trust. And trust is one of those funny things where uh, the only way to create trust is to give it, which is in some ways kind of like gratitude. Gratitude, the giving is receiving, and trust is one of those things that begets more trust. And when we can do that in community, we literally create a sense of wholeness. And within wholeness, there's actually space and opportunity for healing. And I love it because anybody and everybody can do it. And so we're first going to start with just a simple check-in. And if you need something to prompt you on the check-in, um, I used to, in my team meetings, have a check-in where it's called expectations, appreciations, and distractions. And when we can acknowledge maybe some expectations that we're holding, some distractions that we might be holding, or even just simple appreciations, we're able to kind of settle down into the moment. So I invite you to access your mic and just check in. And if you feel more comfortable sharing in the chat, that is fine too. Please access your
I'll
mic.
start first.
Oh, sweet. Thanks, Brian.
I think because this year is ending, I've been feeling a lot of a little bit of more anxiety than normal. And that has to do probably with just trying to almost like try to anticipate what's going to happen in the new year. I feel like a lot of change coming, almost like a little bit of closure because the end of the year is coming. And then yet, this whole pandemic doesn't seem to be going away. And there's a lot of uncertainty with that. And the holidays are reserved for, time to go away, spend time with family. And it's kind of not almost, not really what we can do too much at this point. And so for me, I've been getting a lot of anxiety about just what the unknown, which is a very common thing for me. But I think uh, the changing thing for me, and it's been a result of just these sessions that we've been having, is I turn to gratitude immediately instead of worrying. And once I start reminding myself of like what I do have right now, which is health, my family that I do have, my house, my jobs, things like that, it changes a lot. And it's something that it's like a big deal for me because I haven't done that before. I've just stayed in the worrying and the anxiety part of my in my head, and it's completely changed now once you start thinking about things that are beautiful and are great, and you realize there's just so much of that around you even during this time. So my check-in for this week has been battling a little bit between the anxiety and the gratitude, and it's a good battle, and I'm happy for it because it's better than just surrendering and kind of resigning to dark, like a dark feeling.
Thank you. Anybody else like to go next? Trisha.
Well, let's see, Omar. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. um, what is it with a prompt? Give me the prompt again.
Expectations, appreciations, or distractions?
I can hit all three. Expectations of better health and appreciations of the health that I have now, and also being appreciative of coming home, being home back in Texas, and I had to let go of the aspiration of wanting to be on my own in Denver, and I had to surrender to my body. My body couldn't. My physical body. I was physically unable to carry on, to continue, and I returned home and um, and appreciate every moment of being back in my home and having all three beds that I can choose to sleep in, like Goldilocks, and and wherever I feel like falling asleep that day or whenever, and the distraction is physical pain right now, dealing with the repercussions of all the lifting and toting I did. So there's mine.
Thank you, Trisha, for checking in.
I can share. Today I woke up feeling kind of tired. So I'm kind of feeling what Trisha's saying, just around noticing the body more present today. And um, the tiredness is kind of distracting, but I also feel like it's maybe a good teacher also of just like slowing down right now and not trying to push too hard. So that's also an appreciation in a weird way. It's like, yeah, my body is very wise and it has opinions about how I should move through the day. And so I'm grateful for that.
Thank you, Belinda. Well, I'll share a quick check-in as well. My feeling is that the tides are shifting. And I was reading today about how our mind is like the beach and thoughts are like the footprints. And when the wave comes, the thoughts and the footprints wash away. And that was beautiful. But then I kind of was thinking about it a little bit more, and like, if the tide is going out, then those footprints stay longer. And I feel like for several months this year, the tide was going out and there was a lot of footprints, a lot of thoughts. And finally, I feel like the tide is coming in and a lot of those footprints are washing away. And it was wonderful because Belinda and I were talking about the moon earlier this week. And she's like, Omar, it's a full moon. And I was like, I love that you know that it's a full moon right now. I wish I was like that, sort of aware of our cosmic sort of positioning. And what does the moon do? It moves the tides. And it just gave me this wonderful sense of just interconnectedness. And that sometimes the tide is in, sometimes the tide is out. Sometimes our thoughts are easy to let go of, sometimes they're not. But they're all part of our life. And so I am just grateful in this moment of just that sense of interdependence
Interconnectedness.
and interconnectedness. We'll now move to a meditation. And Belinda, I had assumed you were going to do the meditation. So awesome.
So I'm curious. I thought you were. No. So I'm curious, how many of you are familiar with meditation or have a practice of it? Like, just raise your hand if you've ever done meditation. Great. So everyone's a experienced meditator. So in these healing circles or these gratitude circles, I really love to use meditation and embodiment as a way for us to really get into our physical space, and that is our bodies. And then from that place of kind of breathing with our bodies, really feeling into, is there anything that we're curious about right now? Is there any insight that we'd like to receive during our healing time together? Oftentimes from that place of deep, like inner peace, we can really get some insight or a shift in perspective that we didn't expect. So that's kind of the intention around starting this circle in that way. So what I want us to do right now is just take a couple deep breaths to kind of arrive into your body. And as you breathe, notice if there's any tightness anywhere that you would like to just kind of release or just adjust a little bit more. So even the way that you're sitting or standing, if you're finding that you want to kind of adjust it a little bit just to get a bit more comfortable, let's just take a minute to just arrive and get comfortable into our physical bodies. So as you breathe in, just imagining the tide of your body kind of going, washing over you, bathing your body with this beautiful breath and this beautiful vitality. So imagine that breath kind of going all the way from our feet and all the way up to our head slowly. And then as we exhale, just the tide going out, just releasing. So let's do some deep breaths, just receiving energy and vitality. And exhaling any discomfort, anything we want to release. And we'll just do a couple rounds of deep breathing. And really bring some awareness from our feet all the way up to our head and back down again. Flowing in, flowing out. Flowing in, flowing out. Flowing in, flowing out. With each breath, getting more vitality and energy. With each exhale, letting go, getting softer, more gentle in our bodies. Imagining your breath giving you more lightness, letting you release anything that doesn't serve. For this next breath, imagine the energy coming from your feet and gradually traveling all the way up to your heart. And if it helps, gently put a hand at your heart as a way to give yourself a gentle hug. And as you make contact with your hand on your heart, feel that flow of the tide, energy going in, the energy going out with a release. And breathe with your heart for a few rounds of breath. Going as fast or as slow as you'd like. Flowing in, flowing out with our hearts. And from this place of connection with yourself, let's start by giving gratitude for our heart, for everything it does to keep the blood flowing in our bodies, flowing in, flowing out, and for everything our hearts do metaphorically and emotionally for us. Just take a minute to give yourself that gratitude for everything that you feel. And sending that love back to ourselves as a symbol of our gratitude as well. Breathing deeply with our hearts. It's a way to be present and to give ourselves gratitude. And from this place of connection with our hearts, let's ask a question or inquiry today from a place of openness and peace. What is it that our hearts want us to know today in this moment? Is there an image that comes to mind? Maybe a color, maybe a sensation that we feel right now, holding our hearts. Or it could be a question that's emerging right now for you in your life. Just letting the breath guide us, letting us be present in the moment. And if nothing comes, that's okay too. Just enjoy that moment of connection with yourself. Flowing in, flowing out. And when you feel ready to come back to the circle, just imagine the energy from our heart getting released back out into the world. All of our energies from our hearts coming together in this space, connecting, aligning, amplifying, And imagine us sending our energy from our hearts collectively out into the world. Bring more hope and healing to all the people that need it right now. And when you feel ready, you can slowly take your time to softly open your eyes and just acknowledge the people that are here. And if you feel comfortable, just taking a minute to connect with what emerged. If it's a question or a sensation that you're curious about or something going on in the moment, you're welcome to share it in the chat, like as a group journal entry, or you're welcome to speak it.
That was beautiful, Belinda. Thank you. Um, I think for me, what came up was just this question about how the pace of change proceeds at the pace of trust. And what does that look like? Particularly with creating these kinds of gratitude circles.
I tried to summarize it in the chat. Feel free to add to it, Omar.
That's perfect.
I'm great. I felt a healing gratitude, the grace of healing and staying grounded in healing today and self-care and bright light, brightness. Oh, one more. And sharing in circle, sharing loving kindness with all in circle today and on planet.
Trisha, do you have any inquiry, or was there any questions that are emerging for you from that place?
Well, self-care is something I know how to do, and I had a meeting with my doctor yesterday, and we had to increase my pain medication for physical pain and discomfort. But I'll do some artwork later in a little while about our meditation as well. And I've been practicing Reiki healing and did a lot of that yesterday for friends that are ill and hospitalized and surgeries and all this, the pandemic bug. And it takes a bit out of me. Although it flows through, I do use a lot of my own personal energy. So that may also be added to why I'm rather, sleepy today. For needing some rest and proper relaxation. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm grateful for this circle. Thank you.
Linda, David, Brian, is there anything you feel called to share, even in the chat, or just your presence is perfect as well?
I shared on under the other account that I had connected with my mom, which I kind of needed because I haven't really felt that in a little bit. And yeah, I think in that she reminded me that heart came from her. So
Thank you, Brian.
So in the spirit of this circle, it feels like it would be beautiful to see what insight nature might have to give to us, just from this place of coherence and resonance from the heart. Omar, how would that feel for us to pick three cards collectively, just for what this space, what wants to be known right now from nature? Would that feel
Sounds great.
appropriate?
And just so the folks know, and as you're setting it up, Belinda, um, these cards I think are amazing. There's 39, 38, 39 cards, and each one was hand drawn from an artist who then sort of felt what that word was and then created a prompt around it. And those who've been with us over the summer, I've been experimenting, learning about the I Ching, which is a 3,000 plus year practice in China. And what I love about it is the synchronicity. And it took me a while to get my head wrapped around that, but to me, the opposite of synchronicity is causality, which is how we often think, like if this, then that. And what it doesn't, that sort of logic frame doesn't make room for is just the mystery of life. And synchronicity I think the best definition I've heard of it is beautiful coincidence. And so these cards are an incredible manifestation of beautiful coincidence. And so we'll pull three cards, as Belinda said, and each prompt, if it resonates with you, just is another way to kind of check in. It's just, you're pulling them up. This is
Yeah.
a experiment. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's always so lovely to hear other people talk about the thing that you've been creating and it's like, oh yes, somebody else, the people understand, and it's beautiful the way you explained it, Omar. Yeah, so these are 39 cards that come from nature, and there's a wisdom from Mother Earth. So would love to invite different people to kind of take us to a card wherever you feel. If someone has an idea of which one they want us to pick, I'm going to move my cursor around and
Second row, second one to the right.
this one.
Got it.
Ooh, let's see. What is this message for all of us? Oh, interesting. So this is the Touch Me Not flower, and she represents the word sorrow. And it says, sorrow can come from the courage to love. Acknowledge the bravery behind any sorrow you notice or feel. Brian, I'm curious, since you picked this card, and I felt a lot of tenderness from you connecting with your mother. What comes up for you in this moment, just looking at that?
It's a little weird because the first thing I thought of was my mom was, she worked for Meals on Wheels for 30 years. And she was, that was a big part of her life. And one of the first things I thought of with this is I tend to battle with myself about feeling sorry for homebound residents, people that are hungry. That's always kind of bothered me. And I've always never found a way to do something about it, I guess is the best way to describe it. I always feel helpless sometimes, like I can't help or I can't do anything to, I don't know, to be there for them. And that card reminded me of what my mom used to do and how she really cared and loved other people and felt bad for people she didn't know. And she wasn't afraid to do something about it. And it's not that I'm afraid to, I think I just feel overwhelmed with how to get started in doing it. So that's kind of what I got out of that card. Does that make sense?
Amazing. I mean, this is the magic of the cards. And what I'll just share in this from a process standpoint is just, is this space isn't about fixing or healing other people. This is just sort of our own inquiry. And so I asked if people share, is just share and reflect back on just their own experience as opposed to commenting on other people's experience.
Omar, this was the one that we picked. And it's
awesome. Well, one, I'm grateful for having a co-host. I was the first having a total technology meltdown as my computer seems to have died. So that was definitely transformed discomfort into discovery. And I think that in some ways too, my question was like, how do you proceed at the pace of change? You proceed at the pace of trust. And I think the fact that you and I have worked together in now multiple ways, like I sort of just trusted that, like, you know what, I know that this circle is in good hands. And so not having to add my own kind of stress to the moment of trying to figure out what was happening. And the other thing about agave is that it's sweet. And so it's kind of, trust is sweet. So thank you.
Beautiful themes. Do we feel complete, or do we, with 3 messages, or do we feel like we need more? What'd you say, Trisha?
Bring it on. Bring more cards on.
Yeah, I can do one more.
I love it.
One more.
All right, now Omar, you get to really pick this one.
All right, scroll down and then left, far left. There's one up. There we go. I love it. The Pasquet flower, destiny. Notice what makes you come alive. What is something you feel called to do? I mean, I think this to me is, the inquiry was around trust, the pace of it through these circles. And I just love this idea that there's some destiny in these circles. And part of it is just because I feel like there's joy that can happen in these spaces. And I know that that's when I come alive. It's when I come alive through joy. And I feel like these circles is a way that we can, reconcile real need for healing, but do it in a space of joyfulness. And we can do that healing when we're together and not sort of alone and separate and apart.
Does anything else come up for anyone personally around this theme or this card? It's been interesting, all the different things that have emerged.
I can speak to this. The destiny, the fact, the Pasquet flower being destiny, and that what makes me come alive is feeling well. And also I feel very alive when I'm feeling, kind of in that feeling that, I'm not so great today. Whether or not the weather is affecting my fibromyalgia, I can still have joy and gratitude and grace. And I'm called to share that. And sharing, maybe what, I would say sharing is a destiny, and caring, sharing, caring, kindness, and gratitude.
Brian, were you going to share something?
I mean, I struggle with the word destiny sometimes because I feel like it's like a predetermined, kind of thing. And I mean, that's sort of how I feel. I mean, I almost tend to shy away from that word just because I feel like every day what I do will kind of like determine my path, sort of. But I do always believe that there's a bigger purpose for me in the end that one day I'll understand. But I think what is something you feel called, something you feel called to do that makes me feel come alive, I think is just being nice to people. When I'm really nice to somebody and I feel like they've received that from me, it makes me feel like I've done something for, that I've been useful to somebody. So I think that's what makes me feel alive, is when I feel like I can help others.
So this, I think, is now sort of a moment of harvest, if you will. I think the meditation, the intention, these cards each are sort of sowing ideas and feelings and experiences. And now, just in a moment, as we check out, if anybody would like to share something they've harvested from this moment. And I'll start, which is, this was an experiment. And I feel like there is a destiny to these circles. I don't know exactly how they're going to configure, but I think what is important to me is just to know that what everybody needs is within them, and the space just gives people permission to tap into the inner teacher that we all have, as opposed to relying on experts or leaders to give solutions. It's really about creating the space for people to find what they need within themselves, and that co-creating that happens in circles is powerful.
I think that's exactly what I've gotten from it today, is just learning something about myself, a little self-discovery, which is really rare for me. So I'm constantly thinking about how to appeal and appease others, how to get jobs done, how to make meetings, how to, I'm constantly thinking, okay, I got to get this done, I got to get this done, I got to get that done. And doing this lets me answer my own questions rather than looking for answers through other people. And that's huge for me, because I rarely carve that time out for myself, and I need that.
I'm grateful for this time every week that we all share together, and seeing being able to be who I am, where I am, wherever I am, in the space that I have available to me. And I am grateful for all of these learning lessons that we've learned over time, and that we've been able to share with one another. And that, thank you, Omar and Belinda, for our time today. And I would like to thank all y'all, for this wonderful platform of gratitude, and to be able to learn each and every week, each and every day. I check into the app, and being able to have grace. Namaste.
I also want to echo the feeling of gratitude for the people that chose to show up today, and the vulnerability that was shared. It felt very tender. And also for the collection of themes and wisdom from the earth that wanted to show up. It feels really deep, and I think I'm gonna keep the message around discomfort and discovery, and that's part of the path to destiny, or just like following those clues that our hearts, are trying to guide us towards. Is just, sometimes it is easy and sometimes it can be a struggle, and like find the joy and the grace in that as we like put one foot over next to the other, and just go follow the path that we're being guided to. So yeah, felt very sweet and special.
Sweet like agave.
Or tequila.
Tequila. Who knows?
Another Omar.
That's
Well,
another
thank
kind of
you so
self-discovery.
much. Truth serum. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, Brian, Trisha, Belinda. You know, we'll keep figuring this thing out. And so it's just beautiful to know that we're not alone in doing it. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Belinda.
Thank you, Trisha.
You're welcome. Thank you, Omar.
For now,
Peace.
where I am, mahalo.
Oh, yeah. All y'all from Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
have a beautiful sunshiny day wherever you are. Share the sunshine in your heart.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Take care.